All right, welcome back. This is our fourth and final entry in this curriculum-informed AI webinar series. It's the last entry here, but certainly not the last time we'll be discussing this topic. I am Sean Haas. I'm the Director of Creative Services here at Imagine Learning. And with me today is Cheryl Ray, who is an ELA teacher. Cheryl, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Hi. I've been an English language arts teacher for 28 years now. I spent 19 years in the brick and mortar setting and then transitioned to Edgenuity. And I've been a virtual instructor here for about 9 years. Right.
Outstanding. And Andrew Jones, also an ELA teacher, graciously donating his time as well today. Andrew, you want to tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I've been a high school English teacher for 15 years now. And about 10 of that was in the brick and mortar classroom. And the last 5 have been here with Imagine Learning.
Outstanding. And Tammy Wilder, who is according to my Slack, is our Senior Corporate Counsel and Customer Contracting Director. Tammy, I hope they don't make you say that too often.
I never say all of that.
But go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Sean. I am a Senior Corporate Counsel with Imagine Learning. I have been in the education technology space since 2016, and all of that time has been with Imagine Learning, where I am just thrilled to be able to work with schools to help deliver curriculum that's going to help our students be successful.
Outstanding. And with us, as always, is Jason Fournier, our VP of Product Management and AI Initiatives. Jason, welcome back.
Thanks, Sean. Good to be here. And as I've said in the last couple episodes, I oversee our AI programs here at Imagine Learning and help to build out curriculum-informed technologies that can support students and teachers in their learning goals.
Outstanding. And in this, our final entry in this series, our topic of today is, what does responsible, trustworthy AI look like? It has been somewhat of a topic that's been woven in to the previous episodes as well. It is certainly a top of mind concern for educators, students, parents, really anybody who interacts with AI. And speaking of the previous episodes, if you're watching this now and want to go back and fill in episodes 1 through 3, you can go to curriculum-informed.ai. And with that, let's get started here. I'm going to send it over to the teachers here. And Andrew, I'll start with you first. So what does it mean to you for AI to be responsible in the context of K-12 education?
Well, I think there are a lot of aspects of responsibility when it comes to education. And for me, with AI, my primary concern and maybe focus with AI is that it's utilized in a way that uplifts education rather than sort of recycles these, antiquated didactic pedagogies that research has shown to be not very effective, right? Student is lectured at for an hour, takes a quiz, does that 8 times, takes a test, does that 5 times, takes a final exam, right? And if AI can help us, large language models can help us drive more effective, student-centered, multimodal pedagogies that really uplift that education, awesome. I'm totally on board. I think that's a very responsible way to use it. But if we're using it just to sort of recycle those antiquated pedagogies, then we're not using it responsibly. We're using it in a way that warehouses our students in a maybe somewhat more efficient way. And so that's what AI responsibility in the classroom looks like to me, I think. And I think it's based around using it in a way that builds up education rather than, makes it more cost effective, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Cheryl, speaking of going off of what Andrew said about recycling pedagogies and sort of like not just using it to do the same old, what are the kinds of things then you might look for when using AI to develop curricula and content for your students?
Well, if we want to use it carefully, we've got to make sure that it is specific to the curriculum that we are teaching. Specifically, each of our programs is different. It used to be that all the programs had the same curriculum nationwide, and it's not that way anymore. So that's what I'm concerned about, is making sure that it is purely correct and what the programs want. And also, I see it from the other side with speaking of responsibility, is are we teaching the kids how to use it? And is that part of our curriculum? It seems like that should be.
That actually raises an incredibly interesting question there. Jason, actually, I'll pitch to you here on this. That idea there of is the responsible use of AI teaching that to students? Does that become part of the curriculum itself?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, the answer is yes. You know, in the news right now, you hear a lot about how the work is being changed as AI is affecting what we all do. You know, it's become part of our office tools. It's being released in the software we use day in, day out. And if you believe that part of what education is intended to do is to prepare kids for the world, whether that's becoming a contributing citizen or it's getting a job and contributing in the workforce, we're teaching them the skills that they need to go on and do their thing in whatever comes next. And so I think part of that is AI literacy. I think it's understanding how to use it, when to use it, what ethical use looks like, what responsible use looks like. I mean, there's been some really terrible stories in the news about kids attaching to AI friends or personalities in ways that aren't really healthy. There's also been stories about deep fakes and other content that's been really controversial and has disrupted schools and the educational setting. And I think to do right by our students, we have to teach them how to use all of this stuff in ways that are effective and helpful, and teach them where the pitfalls are. So definitely agree with Cheryl's point there. And I think it's a big part of what companies in the educational space can do with this technology is help teachers also build their AI literacy. Because the fact of the matter is, just like the rest of us, they're also learning how to use this technology and how to use it effectively. But then also learners and kind of build their skills. And Sean, I think I'll say one more thing on this topic. This is not new. We've been talking about 21st century skills and 4Cs and digital skills for decades now. And the reality is that AI is just making us refresh some of that and apply it to this new technology. And so teachers and educators have a lot of experience in this space. They've done it with websites, how to know if a website is trustable or not, you know, teaching kids how to use Wikipedia appropriately. This is something we've dealt with for a little bit, and AI is just adding some new wrinkles, but we've had to think about these problems for a while.
Absolutely. And Cheryl, I'm going to come back to you. I saw a big head nod there when Jason mentioned 21st century skills and how this is not necessarily a new topic of discussion or new challenge to meet. My question to you is, what have you seen so far, if you've experienced this, or what are your concerns around things like ethical use or signs of things like addressing bias or just either misinformation, disinformation, or representation issues of representation around like genders and race?
Are you thinking inside the curriculum? Is that what you're referring?
Correct. Yeah, in terms of using AI in the classroom.
Yes. I did come across one. Unfortunately, I can't remember exactly what it was. It had something to do with gender, a gender bias. That it was written into the questions, one of the questions. And, you know, I don't know if that was AI or human, so I can't speak to that, but I did report it immediately. We have a way to do that right away. And so I don't feel like that's a big danger, because every single one of us, Andrew, myself, every teacher that's out there, English language arts anyway, we're all over those questions and those essay prompts. So, but speaking to what we've seen and what we've dealt with before, he made a good point with the Wikipedia. Okay, at first we couldn't use Wikipedia, but then after a while, it's a good idea to use Wikipedia if you can look at the resources and use those resources. So I think that every kind of technology that we come across and problem, it seems to be a problem at first. We find a way to cope with it, and I trust this.
Fantastic. Andrew, head over to you. I saw some head nods there too. So if you hadn't caught on yet, if you guys sort of emphatically head nod while someone else is speaking, I might come to you because it lets me know that you probably got something to say.
It's a good teacher strategy too.
Yeah. Oh, well, then maybe I would have been a good one then. Andrew, in that vein of being able to report issues that you see and being aware of the kinds of things that could crop up in AI generated results. How do you go about vetting that kind of information?
Well, I think a lot of it is using your normal research methods, right? And that is finding sources, finding supporting documents, that sort of thing. I mean, it's important for us to remember, and I think it's also important for us to teach our students that AI models, particularly large language models, are only as trustworthy as and diverse and equitable and all that as the people who trained them. And so, a large language model could very easily have the same biases that the people who trained it has. And even if they don't know they have biases, they have biases. Those crop up in large language models. And so it's important for us to find, maybe we could start our research or a project or something like that with AI, but it's important for us to continue to do our due diligence to find vetted sources to go along with that. Like Cheryl was saying, it's like the early days of Wikipedia. You can use it to start your research. You could use it to start the process, and it's great for finding sources on a topic. But it should not be your only source, because if something is crowdsourced and nothing is crowdsourced like a large language model, then we have to make sure that we're vetting whatever it is it's giving to us.
Absolutely. And Jason, on that note about the biases and leanings and thoughts and feelings of the person who's training a large language model, or the people who are training this thing, then oftentimes can get reflected in it. And we've talked about this on a previous episode of this, but maybe not at length, and certainly not in this context. With the curriculum informed AI initiative at Imagine Learning, how are we addressing that idea of, well, we are building this, and we as human beings, we do have thoughts and feelings and biases and opinions on stuff, but we need to make sure that what we're serving up is vetted, empirical, truthful information.
Yeah, I think there's a few angles that I would touch on here. One is, I bet every one of us has a story about an assignment we did as a student where it was graded incorrectly, or the answer was not correct in the options, and we had to go back to a teacher and ask for them to look at it. And so the first thing I would say is, like, teachers aren't perfect, the technology is not perfect. We've always had to have this kind of thoughtful dialogue, and I think that there's nothing new here in that regard. From a technical perspective, there's a growing suite of tools that you can use to add a level of confidence to what LLMs generate. The scale at which it takes to train a large language model is such that not everyone can just make a large language model. And so you want to be able to leverage the power that comes with the investment in this technology that large labs are making, and yet you want to do that safely. And so there's the simple things like disclaimers, this material, this content, this feature is powered by a large language model, and you should double check the accuracy and make sure that you scrutinize the result before you use it. There's things that we can implement, and some of those, by example, are evaluations and benchmarks, where we create a set of data that we understand well, that we can use to assess what the model is generating, and we can measure accuracy, and we can use that to tell if the system's performing the way that we want it to over time. Evaluations let us compare results across models, or even results across tasks, to make sure the results meet our criteria. And then there's what's called grounding, and that's when you give the model, give the tool context that it should use to base the generation from. And that's a technique that's really useful when you think about things like, as Cheryl was saying earlier, aligning to curriculum, where you can say, here's some guidance on creating something that matches this curriculum, and here's a set of material you can use to create permutations or variations of. So there's a lot of techniques, and they range from communication and transparency through to technical and engineering, that all when used together can increase the confidence you have that the result is a good one. But it still requires a human to look at what's happening and to make sure they're using human judgment before they just move forward with the outputs of these tools.
Absolutely. On that note, Tammy, what kinds of things are we seeing in contracts on requests and needs from customers and districts as far as being able to say, yes, this is vetted, yes, we're being responsible? What kinds of questions, I guess, are we having to answer to and assurances we're making
Yeah, I
in
think
contracts?
customers have been very, very much aware of how, I like to call it, the wild, wild west of AI and what's happening out there, and trying to make sure that the products and services that they procure for the students to use, that there are things built into those products that are going to keep the students safe. I think safety is one of the things we see most. They talk about, is the student data going to be safe? They want to understand how AI is embedded into the product and what we do with the data that we collect from the students. Basically, just basic information to be able to deliver the products and services that they've purchased from us to deliver. So a lot of what we see is built around data security, um, data privacy, how we use it. Are we using that data that interacts with AI that aligns with the curriculum we are to deliver? Are we doing anything more or anything less with that? So I think that's the biggest concern we see in student contracts right now, the questions that customers are asking. And they do want, some of them have audit rights built in. They want the ability to be able to go in and kind of look more closely at the product and how the input, how that's handled, how we actually secure it. I see the customers doing a pretty thorough job of investigating what they put in front of students, which, makes me proud because we want to keep students safe. So
Absolutely. And it sounds like we have some things in place, and I'm sure there's a myriad of things in place we could talk about, and let's do, absolutely. But from Cheryl's example earlier is, at a maybe a simple level, there's a reporting mechanism in place, or a way to escalate issues of like, hey, I saw this, and I don't think this was generated correctly. I'm assuming districts are really interested in those kinds of things in terms of being able to
they
see
are.
like what's working under the hood kind of thing. Jason, as far as that goes, what does that process look like? If you can speak to it, what does that process look like of a district saying like, hey, we kind of want to see what's going on behind the curtain here a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, I think this is one where Tammy, in her role on the legal side, and myself in my role on the product side, and then other experts in the business, we have privacy experts, we have data security experts, all have to work together. Generally, our contracts with our customers allow them, as Tammy said, to kind of escalate or to ask for certain things. And then we have a number of different protocols in place to deal with that. So there's email addresses they can write to make those requests. There's forms that they can fill out, and then we'll provide documentation. We can provide samples of different data. We can look at the results they're getting. So there's a variety of things. What I would say is you don't ever want it to get to that point. So one piece of this is you want to build systems that are safe from the start. But the second thing is you want to put the right features in place to allow for what Cheryl was describing, for escalation, for reporting, point of use. And in some systems, I mean, we've all used systems where there's a thumbs up, thumbs down. Something was generated, I liked it, click the thumbs up. Something was generated, I didn't like it, click the thumbs down. In good products, that doesn't just go away. It's not thrown out. It's used to improve the system. Someone's looking at that data, and they're making adjustments to the way the system works to kind of improve. And then you want to have other kind of more serious escalation paths, through customer support, through your customer success agent or your account executive, where you can get more attention for things that require that. So again, I think all of these are they're multi-pronged approaches. You need to address it from a variety of ways and make sure that you have the contractual rigor and the systems in place to respond to those things, the in-product capabilities, the ability to respond there. And then you want to start from a position of building safely right from the jump.
Absolutely. Tammy, kind of going beyond, expanding a little bit beyond the district level, the specific district needs and concerns and the things that they're faced with. What is your view and experience right now in terms of like a policy level around the use of AI, and especially obviously within context of education?
I'd say, I mean, because I'm a bit distanced directly from what's going into the classroom and dealing more about the product delivery, making sure that we can deliver those services and products. I'm a bit more in the fringe of it. But one of the things that we stress generally in working internally with the different departments internally is how we use AI. We don't want AI to become the actual the product maker. I mean, and I think we have so many things in place with the AI policies that we've worked with Jason and our data privacy and data security team to use, and also the AI products that we may use. Is we want to always bring it back to human interaction, human review, and basically be very careful and very thorough about what we're putting in our products and how that's rolled out to our customers and to the students who actually will be using this on a day-to-day basis, and also have the teachers have input into what we're developing. It's not that we have a team here and we develop in a silo and then the teachers don't have any input. So I think what we've developed internally to address the products that we develop and that we put out and put before our students and in front of our customers, I think we have a really good process to keep that human touch, to not let AI take over it and run away with the products. I really like what we're doing internally, and we keep developing and evolving. Jason can speak to that very clearly because we talk about it quite a bit. But we want to stay on top of that because we recognize that our students are people. Our students will be the leaders. Our students will be the ones who kind of, take what we've put in front of them and develop careers and lifestyles and the things that we deal with in the future. So we want it to have that human impact and never lose that touch.
Absolutely. On that note, we'll kind of maybe wander out a little bit here, and discuss something in a more broad sense. And Tammy, this is to you to start with. Is AI is about everywhere right now. There's every other day there's some new .ai domain being registered and some new AI tool or personal assistant or gadget being unveiled. With this like vast and massive proliferation of this kind of thing, what are some warning signs that an AI tool might not be safe to use?
One of the things we definitely look at is, look, I'll use some examples, and there's quite a few things, but I'll use some examples that we see on a regular basis where we get students who can finish complete an entire course in, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, an 8 to 12 week course, and they're done with it. So we know, that's not when the AI tools are being used, when we can see an academic integrity issue, we know that that's a problem. We know something's going on there, and those are like really easy to spot. They're really obvious. But some of the things that we look at is when, tools are on the side of pretty much doing the job of what humans do. That to me is a red flag. I keep going back to that human interaction because I think that's important and it can't be lost. I don't care how good a tool is. It's just that it is a tool. It's something to be used and not something to replace. So I think those are extremely important things. And then, we have to remember that we have to have these guardrails built around whatever AI tools we use. And if there aren't any guardrails, if these tools don't take into account data security, data privacy, managing how the services and products can be used in alignment with what the curriculum calls for, what the contract calls for, anything outside of that, those are red flags for us. So we look for those when we are reviewing customer contracts, customer concerns, responding to those. When tools come to us to be vetted, Jason does a lot of that with our data security and privacy team. Those are things that we look at to make sure that what we are, again, putting in front of not just our students, but in front of our staff, we want to be very careful about what we provide to build out our services and products.
Outstanding. Andrew, I saw a pretty big laugh from you there when we were discussing, or Tammy was discussing the, somehow a student has magically completed a 10-week course in about 3 days. Do you have an experience with something like that on your end, or?
Oh, absolutely. And I would say that probably all of us virtual instructors at this point have encountered that. It's everywhere, and it's Like Tammy said, it's pretty easy to catch. You know, if a student took a 100 question cumulative exam in 9 seconds and got a 100 on it, then something is going on there, right? You can't even click that fast enough, even if you knew all the answers. And so that's definitely a really common thing. But because it's easy to catch, it's that side of thing. I don't think is an enormous issue when they're just using an auto completer for their class. I think it's the more subtle stuff that I think are bigger problems. You know, when these AI tools are evolving, and they are evolving in ways that make it harder to catch. You know, I've seen AI tools that are set up to where they take the appropriate amount of time on every quiz, and they alternate getting 100s and 90s or 90s and 80s on their quizzes. And it's always, you know, maybe the last question or the last two questions that are missed. And so they're coming up with more and more subtle ways to do that. And that is a concern, but I mean, cheating has always been a thing in education, right? A teenager cheated on a test, knocked me over with a feather, right? Like that's something that I think we'll continue to contend with. And I think one of the big things that we could do about it, as we've talked about so far, is finding out how we can teach these AI skills and utilize them in positive ways, because I think positive utilization tends to overwrite negative utilization. And so rather than just sort of pushing back the tsunami with a mop and trying to respond to all of these things, we utilize it ourselves in positive, constructive ways, and that helps us take care of these problems in a bigger and more constructive way.
Absolutely. And that what you're saying about using it positively, and you know, we've talked about a lot of ways that things could go wrong, things could go sideways, you know, the dangers and things like that. But I mean, Cheryl made a pretty salient point early on in the conversation of it's about using it responsibly, and it's about using it to enhance and enrich the experience, the educational experience, the teaching experience. You know, it's not about sort of automating tasks or doing things more quickly. Cheryl, you mentioned something a bit ago, and I kept it in my brain this whole time because I kind of want to maybe end on this on a positive note. Is you remarked that you feel pretty good, or that you trust this use of AI in the classroom, and I'm just curious, where do you find that trust and that comfort comes from?
Well, I don't trust exactly in the AI itself. I trust in the process of adults working with students, working with a curriculum, working with goals. Uh, you know, and all of the English language arts teachers, I believe, are really leaning towards helping students find their voices, and their voices are not in AI. AI doesn't know their voices. So I think what'll happen, and it just always does, I trust in the process of change. I trust that it's going to start, we're going to start focusing on other things in their essays. Oh, I'm sorry, there's no voice in here. You don't pass the essay. You know what I'm saying? I think we'll find a way to cope with it.
I don't know if there would be a better way to wrap up that discussion, honestly speaking. You know, I think the theme here for the day, and I'll leave it open here at the end for any final remarks and comments, but and I didn't want to put the answer, I didn't want to precede you with the answer, Cheryl, but you kind of responded in the way that I thought you would, is that the power of the AI, the reason the AI can work and will work, is actually at the end of the day, it's because there will be human beings behind it, aside it, you know, inside of it, and using it as we go forward. I mean, I can't think of a better way to kind of wrap up the discussion. Tammy, any final thoughts to share?
I have to piggyback on what Cheryl said. I love the fact that, you know, with all the new things that come out, I mean, like, you think when we were younger and something new came along, we're like, oh my God, that's, you know, it's the end of the world, type of thing. But we found a way to cope. We found a way to manage our use and alter our use so that, it became what we needed it to be, as opposed to it running our world. And I feel the same about AI. It developed so quickly and it continues to develop, but I have faith, like Cheryl, that with human touches and human input and just, we're still around. It's not gonna throw us out there. So we're still here, and we can do what we've always done.
Outstanding. Well, as the humans involved in the use and creation and governance and responsible application of AI, I'd like to thank you all for your time today. Cheryl, Andrew, Jason, Tammy, thank you for your time. And with that, I think we'll bring this to a close. And
Thank you.
with
Thanks.
that, the end of the series. Thanks all.
Okay.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Sean.